It was peak Barclays Premier League action this Sunday night, and if you blinked your eyes and squinted, you would have thought Chelsea were the bigger team and Man City were the young upstarts. But that is not the case. However, we had an amazing match, and we're going to talk all about that and more in this week's episode of One Kick from Glory. And I'm joined, as always, with Craig and Matthew.
What's up?
And we're going to start off at the Battle of the Bridge. Chelsea versus Manchester City, a clash of the titans. It felt like the Barclays Premier League was back, unless you were a fan of either team. Matthew, we're starting off with you, the game at the Bridge. How do you sum up your feelings now, 24 hours after it's all done?
You know what? This is a point gained. This is a point gained, considering how we came back twice from being behind. This is not a case of Arsenal where we were fully in control. We were 2 ahead and then we allowed you to come 2 back. Control was just flopped either side in the moments of the game. You could blink your eyes, there's a goal, something's going on. And just showing what I've wanted from this team for so long is showing grit, not giving up and going out there and matching against the best of the best. You know, treble winners from last year, Premier League chasers again this year, and who knows what else. And the fact that we match them from start to the end, I can't put it in words sometimes, just what I was witnessing and watching and just how stressed I was watching that game. But they delivered on more than I could ever ask. And it's a fitting, nice little break towards the international break, let them recuperate a little bit and hopefully recover this form for the next game. But just an unbelievable set of events. The players stepped up, particular players stepped up who had a point to prove against a former club for letting them go, not much of a fanfare. Sterling, Cole Palmer doing absolute bits. In particular, Cole Palmer, such a young man, such a big responsibility, and just delivering when we need it and throughout the game. We could talk about Mr. Taylor, which was part of one of my doubts beforehand for the game. I was like, even though the history between Taylor and Andy Taylor and Chelsea, it's not great. And I was proven right throughout the game. But nonetheless, we rose up when we needed to. And I'm never a fan that's going to blame him too much on costing us a result. But that being said, my thoughts still stand on him refereeing that game, considering he was only in the Championship last week. How is he gone from being in the Championship last week to managing a Super Sunday big clash with 2 big teams? It doesn't make sense. But irregardless, couldn't be more proud of the boys. 2 back-to-back big results from Spurs to here within the same week. What a result, what a game, really proud, and we just keep on moving. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
That's all you can do. You've got to keep on moving. I want to start off looking at the lineup in particular, because like you said, there were a couple of players with a lot of points to prove, and I think they definitely came out shining. I guess for you, Craig, when you look at how both Chelsea and Man City lined up, so just going through Chelsea's 11, they had Sanchez in goal, their back 4 of Reece James, captain back, they had Diassi and Thiago Silva next to each other, in centre back, Cucurella left back. In the base of midfield, they got Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, and then their 3 ahead of them was Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher and Raheem Sterling, with Nicholas Jackson up front. And then for City, it's practically the standard 11 that you'd expect to see these days. So Ederson in goal, Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Guardiola and Kanji as the back 4. And then in midfield, they had Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Doku, and then Alvarez and Haaland, with Alvarez kind of playing as a false 9 off, almost like a number 10, I guess, in the midfield. When you looked at those 2 lineups, obviously there's a couple of players that you would immediately highlight. Did you think that Doku was going to create a lot of problems for Reece James, just looking at it on paper?
I thought so, but I know Reece James is a good defender. Reece James can defend. If we were playing against, if Doku was playing against a Trent Alexander-Arnold now, for example, who's very good going forward and can do all the good stuff, but defensively is a bit not all there, then I would worry more about that. I think that Reece James is a very good player. He can defend, he can make a good tackle, got an assist for one of the goals as well for, was it Sterling's goal? Sterling's goal, yeah, he got an assist for Sterling's goal. So, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really worried about him, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
in his pocket.
But then I guess speaking of that man, Raheem Sterling, obviously we know that for him and Cole Palmer, it's not their first time playing Man City again, but in the light of this season of how well Cole Palmer's been doing, for Raheem Sterling, a lot of talk around him. Obviously he missed out on the England squad for the internationals coming up this week and next. But yet he showed that class is permanent, and Gareth Southgate's got a problem that he needs to figure out with his eyes. But for you, how impressed were you with the two of them? Again, another game week and two shining lights again for Chelsea.
I feel like the change of managers helped Raheem Sterling a lot this season. I think Pochettino must have put his arm around him in the summer and said, "You know what, I'm going to make you my main man this season. I'm going to stick you in a position. I want you to help lead the young team. You're one of my leaders in the team who I can call upon to show the younger players how I want you to get how to get the game done." And he's helping Cole Palmer. Obviously, they played together at Man City, or they trained together on whatever in Man City, so he knows how Cole Palmer plays. And Cole Palmer's a very good young player, very confident, I would say. He's very, very confident. I wouldn't say arrogant. He's very confident. He knows what he wants to do. He's in interviews. He knows he knows the words to say. Like he said I think last game he said to Nicholas Jackson, "You need to work harder in training." And I was laughing when I saw that. I was like, wow, he shows that he wants his teammates to do well. So he's got a future in the game, a big future, even for England as well. I think if he continues going this way, it'll be very hard for Gareth Southgate not to bring him to the Euros. If he continues with this form, you can't ignore him.
That's a good point. I guess for you, Matthew, what's your... I don't know, like I said, with Cole Palmer, I feel like it's been the last couple of episodes that we've been singing his praises, but deservedly so, because every game week when it's an opportunity for him to show what he's capable of, he rises to the challenge time and time again. For you, what does his performances in this game and throughout this season mean as a Chelsea fan?
The transfer when it came through was a bit of a strange one. He was pinching it off. He just had a great game. Winning them the Super Cup back in Europe, back in Man City. So the fact that we were able to pinch him off for a really relatively good price was just I didn't know what to think exactly for this transfer. I know he's a very good player, a lot of potential in the future ahead of him, but I just didn't know what he was going to do for a Chelsea shirt. But when he's in that shirt, from the moment he kind of stepped onto the pitch and started playing, he started showing, like I said before, the maturity I've wanted to see around this club. This result isn't happening last year. It's not happening. The maturity wasn't there. For sure, the assurance wasn't there. And you had a lot of players who were all about me and not about the team and wanting a way out. Whereas this time now, you're not just the fact that he's come through from Man City, but he's also meeting another fellow, citizen in Raheem Sterling. And they both recognise what it means to be in the big league and perform against not just your former club, but just to perform. And in general, they know the expectation, like what Craig says, talking to the other player. That maturity they've learned over years and years and years from Pep. Say what you like about him, what he's done to the Premier League or whatever, but his standard, his maturity and his discipline, it shows. And he's in his early 20s, for crying out loud. And he's like that at this age. There are other players in that team probably older than him who could learn a thing or two about not just about how he plays, just how good he is, but just how grounded he is, how disciplined he is. And in the interviews, he just knows what to say and how it's about the team, and realises that now this game is done, we're already preparing for the next one. So it wouldn't guarantee me over the time between now and the next game against Newcastle. He's got one eye on that, thinking, when we come back from the international break, we need to be ready. Because we've had two back-to-back good results against two top teams. And this is there's another one coming up next. Got Newcastle within the space of 3 weeks in the Premier League and then the Cup. Let's show up and go again. So it's not all just him. Pochettino's clearly had an effect there as well, and given him a lot of responsibility to take that penalty at that stage of the game against your former club takes so much ice through the veins. Icy cool, but he's mature and confident enough to do it. That's the kind of thing we were expecting. When the game against West Ham, when Enzo had that penalty, that's when it was required, but we didn't have him at the time. That's what is needed. Ice cool, maturity, focus, knowing you can do it and delivering, even if it's the 95th minute against your former club, takes some kind of speciality, I'm telling you. But he continues this and he stays fit and he keeps his head. We're in for a good thing this season, and the results go our way. We're in for a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be important that he maintains that form and keeps going. Obviously, with your ambitions and your targets, you know, it's going to be important to have him performing. And I think what's interesting as well, coming up after the international break, is having more players able fit. So Nkunku has said that he wants to play the Newcastle game himself. That's what we said to the manager. So that's a player you're going to have back. Obviously, we know Badiashile was on the bench this game. So it'll be interesting to see how the manager looks to kind of move the squad forward and sort of cement what he would see as his ideal 11. It seems to be slowly taking shape and kind of see where players will go. I think Lavia should be fit after the international break as well. I guess on that note, for you, Craig, with those players I'm mentioning now, come the international break being over, what do you expect to be Chelsea's starting 11?
Same team that played it yesterday.
You wouldn't change anything?
No.
And Nkunku on the bench, I'm guessing. And
You can't walk straight into the team. He's been injured for so long. What do you think, Matthew?
I think he should be starting off with it wasn't his fault because of the injury, but work on the reserves. It's taken us this long to find a team that we're really happy with, and it has shown in the last 2 games. Even before then, before we lost to Brentford and you know, other less desirable results. For the last 2 months, the team's kind of starting to take shape, you know, and we're in a happy place right now. So this is, I think what it is that this is like blueprint number 1. This is blueprint number 1 of a team that he likes, and then nearer to the time, and if he can afford, you know, the gaps here and then, to work on blueprint number 2, because there's a lot of players that you know that got to fit back into his squad. You know, without mentioning the likes of Lavia and Nkunku, Fofana's going to come back. You know, just to name a few. You know, Broja's just come back. You know, then, you know, Mudryk is still kind of in and out, I know as well, but proving still very effective. There's still a lot of talent to come back. And he just needs to find those blueprints. Let's say we're back in Europe next year, which is the target. You want the blueprint for that. You want the blueprint for the league, and maybe even a mixed match for the cups. You know, that's the best teams will have a reliable team to run in all areas, which I think is desirably what is wanted from this club. You know, go for the cups this year, give them some confidence, give them a sense of winning. Next year, back in Europe, we go again, improve the league even further, and then 2 years down the line, who knows? Because a lot of these players are on massive contracts. You know, granting the likes of Silva would have gone. Thiago Silva would have retired. Sterling could possibly still be there. You know, James possibly still be there as captain. There's the future is starting to look not bright, but more organised. Organised is what I'm going for. So I think that's what, for the team right now, kind of keep it as it is and give them time to kind of root in a little bit more. A little bit more.
Should be interesting to see how these things will play out. I want to ask about one key moment in this game, the penalty. And I want
The first one or the second
Craig.
one?
The Erling Haaland foul
Yeah.
by Cucurella, which was given as a penalty. What's your view on it? From your perspective as a person who plays football, who has definitely been on the end of tussles with defender.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Soft. Very soft. If that was given against me, I'm a defender, and I'm defending against someone, I'll be very upset. And if I was given that penalty, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be like, well, the defender would be having a gut me saying he went down too easily. He was definitely swear at me or something, or swear at the referee or something, give me abuse. So Haaland's a big guy. Look at the size of Cucurella. Look at the size of Haaland. And the way he went down, it's like he got shot or something.
And I think for me, the issue I have is that when you look at that phase of play, it's like, and VAR reviewed it, and they seem to only focus on the second half of the tussle, which is when Cucurella was, you know, still pulling on. But it starts with Haaland pulling him. Yeah. Pulled his shirt, Cucurella pulled back, Haaland let go, Cucurella still held on, and that's when he dropped. To me, it's 50-50. You could just leave it.
If that's another place of the pitch, that's a foul to the other side. That's a foul of Cucurella's flavour because he's still grabbing the shirt.
Because it started with him, yeah.
Plus, you know, like Craig said, you know, Haaland's got a good bit of muscle ahead of Cucurella, let's be real. But, you know, it's Anthony Taylor. What do I expect? So I'm not blaming him. Like I said before, I'm not blaming him for the result. This is another one of those times where if another day we would be winning this match. But the Arsenal one was due down to our own folly. This was, you know, again, we could have done a little bit more, but referee incompetence does play its hand. I said before, you can't have a guy who was in the Championship last week on such a high profile game, on Super Sunday for all games. I mean, think it through. And his history with Chelsea as well. Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, I think in terms of like how the match played out, I know that Pochettino was very upset with the equalising goals, make it 2-2, because you got up in front, you looked like you were doing really well. You gave away an unnecessary corner, but then the marking, you've just free header.
I got to talk about that. And that's this is still the kind of thing where I'm not getting too ahead. I'm saying the future's bright and saying it's looking a little bit more organised. There's still far too many errors going around, and that goal felt unnecessary. Granted,
whose fault was it?
Whoever was meant to be hard marking the Kanji, really.
There was at least 2 players nearby. Reece James lost him.
Reece James, yeah. I mean, but it's the same thing happened against you with Gusto losing Trossard, who was marking him. He's not the biggest guy. I mean, it's fine.
How do you guys mark from corners? Do you do zonal or do man to man?
They do zonal marking.
We do zonal,
that's the problem.
Which doesn't. When again against a team like City, doesn't really work.
They got big players,
big strong players who can head on the ball.
You can do zonal. A lot of teams do mixed zonal man to man. So you do zonal, and then you have the few players that engage with the men. But I think in that situation, it's that you just didn't have anyone in that front post zone. There was no one there, and then the closest player to Akanji was James.
Yeah. He
was just completely flat-footed.
Free.
I couldn't believe how free Akanji was.
So free.
And the goalkeeper slipped as well. He did slip. He's not always going to save it. He slipped.
Even if he didn't slip, he would have just got a hand to it and pushed it in.
I mean, the goals, with the deflected one, there's only so much you can do about that. Headed goal, there's only so much you can do about that. Penalty. Like, the goalkeeper-wise, he didn't have a terrible game, but yeah, it's just a few little creases that need to be ironed out because, if we're a bit more of a shoring team, we're winning that game probably, 4-2?
Question then to wrap this section up. Would you say this result, I'll ask this for both of you, but I'll start with you, Craig. Would you say this result is indicative of Man City's vulnerability this season, or does it showcase how much potential this Chelsea side has? Or is it a bit of both?
I'll say a bit of both. I feel like Chelsea have got good potential now. They've got a good man. They finally got a good manager who knows how to work with young players. As I said many weeks ago, he's got a culture. He knows how to play against Pep Guardiola. One of the few managers who knows how to play, has got Pep Guardiola's number. He had that Tottenham, that Champions League semi-final, if you remember. He's done it a couple of times. So he knows how to, over the years with his battles with Guardiola, he's come up on top a lot of times. So he knows, he's got Guardiola's number. He knows what to do. I thought Chelsea got good, as Matthew said, Chelsea got good potential to do well because they bought young players on big contracts. Long contracts. So a lot of them will be staying for a long time. So if he's given the time and the time to build a spine of that team, what he's doing now, give him at least 3 or 4 seasons, give him a big contract. You know what? We'll give you 6 years, build a team, grow with these players. He might have to replace players like Thiago Silva, maybe Sterling 2 years' time when Sterling gets a bit on a bit. But if he can keep that core team together, he could definitely do well for them. He could definitely do well for them. Because Chelsea's a club where if they don't win something one season, they'll go and do some madness the next season. It's always happening there in the Roman years and then in the Roman years when they first, So we'll see what happens.
That's you, Matthew. How'd you take it?
I'm going to be a bit biased. So I'm going to hang it more on the potential side because if you look at the big games we've had this year, Liverpool, Spurs, City and Arsenal, those are the 4 games we actually haven't lost. And we've actually turned out really well and argued, you could say, bar the Tottenham game, obviously, those other games, another day, another goal, another swing of the pendulum, we're winning at least 1 or 2 of those games, But it was an interesting thing watching some of the pundits say yesterday that the City, there's holes there and their empire is very slowly, not crumbling, but showing signs of like little imperfections here and there. Obviously they're missing, like Rodri's just come back, missing De Bruyne is a very big miss as well. But, they're not having it their own way. They're not having their own way. And now 3 teams have their number. Arsenal, City and Liverpool. They're up there with them. They're being held back. In the same way that with Formula 1 recently, Mercedes having it for so long, every empire cracks under pressure. Mercedes cracked 2 years ago. It might be City's turn this year. It's just a case of who blinks first. But I'm going to stick with what I say. I think most fit in that time is down to potential. That is there. But potential is nothing if you don't realise it. So we need to go on somewhat of a little bit of a run from here. We've got hard games still coming up. Christmas is looking a little bit nicer. But we've got to see wins draws at a bare minimum. No more. I would love to see no more defeats until for the rest of the year. I think it's in it. We can do. I think we are capable of doing it.
I think if you do that, you go a long way to achieving your targets and achieve the objectives you have for this year. And speaking of one team, which are, the wheels are slowly starting to fall off the bus. Tottenham. 2-1 away defeat at Wolves. Really happy for Gary O'Neill, actually, and his team there. And I think like it's vindication for him this season, how Wolves are doing. Obviously how he got fired at Bournemouth, which for them is understandable. They thought an opportunity to get a great manager in, but he got the Wolves job and he is just really transforming that team and almost bringing them back to the standard they had a couple of years ago when they were rivaling the top 6, top 8. Like that's the kind of team that I see Wolves, because they've got the potential to be that. Maybe not necessarily right now, but if they keep bringing in the right pieces, they can get there. But I guess for Tottenham having thrown away 3 points, they scored early, Brennan Johnson, and then the Pablo Sarabia show took off. I mean, how impressed are you with Wolves, Craig, and this performance in particular at home?
Well, they done it to Man City. They were unlucky against Man United. Mm-hmm. Who else did they beat? Top club did they beat this season? They played well this season. And it goes to show. I have to give all credit to Gary O'Neill because the way how he got sacked by Bournemouth was not nice. It was very horrible. It left a bad taste in my mouth where he got sacked by Bournemouth. I thought he done well for them last season, kept them up in the league when they were favourites for relegation last season on a small budget as well. Didn't have a big budget to spend compared to all the other clubs in the Premier League. He had a small budget and he kept them up. You were thinking this season, back him with the money, get a couple of quality players in and see where they can go this season. That didn't work out, so he got sacked. He went on holiday. Then Wolves approached him because they lost their manager. Lukategi left and went back to where he left the club. Came into Wolves. He said, you know what, I'm gonna show everyone what I'm capable of doing. And he's done exactly that. Every game this season, if they lose, they're gonna lose by 1 goal margin. Not they're getting battered like 4 or 5-0. So they're losing by 1 goal or they're winning by 1 goal. Just like Saturday, they won by 1 goal. So it goes to show that he's doing a good job and he's working with the resources that he's got. And I said before, I feel that if they continue this way, that they can definitely climb up the table and get in the top half of the table. I don't know where they'll finish, but they could definitely be a top half table team this season.
In terms of the teams they've beaten this year, obviously they beat Spurs. They drew with Newcastle 2-2. They beat Man City 2-1. Those are the major wins they've had. Obviously, they beat Everton 1-0. But in terms of the defeats, the biggest defeat they had was a 4-1 against Brighton. And then after that, it's a 3-1 defeat to Liverpool. Aside from that, every other game's been settled by 1 goal.
I said,
2-1s, either wins or losses, or 3-2 against Crystal Palace or 1-0. So they've got something there.
They're close. They're close margins.
I guess for you, Matthew, like when you look at, especially Pablo Sarabia's goal, because that was just the piece of skill he did to get that goal. The touch, man.
So good.
How impressed are you with him as a player, and how important is he going to be to Wolves in the light of the absence of the likes of Ruben Neves and of course João Moutinho?
He could be like that new guy, because when they came to the Premier League for the first time, they had a whole list of ballers coming through. And unfortunately as it is, other clubs come and pick them up because they just see just how vital they are. He looks like to be the next star in line of not just him. You could even see other ones coming along through because it attracts through, if you're getting results against these big clubs, it's got to be some attention spotted on. Plus Gary O'Neill, who's quite underrated in that way, with what he's had and how he's competed in that bottom half of the Premier League, which gets very competitive at times, especially when it comes to playing the bigger clubs. It could be a start of a new round 2 Wolves blueprint, looking around at all these super talented players from maybe off fringe players, but maybe don't play for their clubs very often. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're looking at the Premier League right now, looking at some players where it's like, you're not getting time, or get a loan deal or something, like I'm going to take you on. I can't think of any at the top of my head who would be on that list, but it wouldn't surprise me with January coming up, thinking of survival, that they're scouting around looking at players like, you're not playing as much as you should be playing. I want you along with this new guy we got, who's going to be our new, we're going to work around him for survival. I see you as a guy. And got the other wizard, that Korean guy as well. What's his name?
Wang Chan.
He's could be another one. Could be building along with him. So he's going to be so vital with his goals and just an exciting prospect for Molineux. So they'll be looking to kind of work. If I were them, I'll be working together to come around and get some real young talent. Not some wannabes. Get some young talent with a point to prove, and you will see them climb up the table from where they are now, maybe like mid-table or something, because they're more than capable of it. But fantastic result and an even better goal, man.
I think there's 5 players for Wolves that are going to be seismic this season. Obviously, we've mentioned quite a few of them, but there's a few pieces missing. So, Thais Cunha, Sarabia, Pedro Neto is currently out injured. You mentioned Wang Yi-chan. And then, of course, the guy who got the winning goal, Mario Lemina. I think he's a player this is a guy who's played at Juventus, was at Southampton previously in the league.
Fulham.
Was at Fulham as well.
Yeah.
Very good player. How important do you think his performances are going to be for them this year? Because he seems to have come in, he's settled quite well, and he seems to be, every match when I see him play, he lost the 90, but he's always dangerous, he's always making things happen. And of course, defensively, he's always solid as a holding midfielder.
The only issue with him is his discipline. He always seems to get these odd red cards. Have you noticed that? He always seems to get a little red card here and there. If he can stay, because continue playing a good football, don't get any more red cards or yellow cards, he'll be fine.
He's got to work on that.
His discipline is very good. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's always getting sent off. Like in crucial games as well, getting sent off. Like, so if he can sort out his discipline, yeah, they've also got a player on their hands.
Yeah, it's going to be one heck of a run for them, and we'll see how well they do. As for Tottenham, Matthew, just as a closing note on them and on this chapter for them this season, how important do you think it's going to be for them to stabilise things whilst they're missing their key players through injury?
Got to do it quick. They got to do it quick because, the clubs around you, behind you, will start closing if you can't figure out. That's 2 losses on the bounce now, whereas before you were winning or drawing every other time. Obviously you got your result against Burnley. Liverpool got the result against Brentford. All right, Newcastle didn't get their result, but Aston Villa did. And Brighton drew. They've been drawing a lot lately, and we'll get on to Man United. They jam their way to another win. They're going to start looking behind them eventually, because if they can't pick up some results, missing certain key players and their main man's, scoring for fun in the Bundesliga, if James Madison's not doing it, then who is? Got his new guy, Brendan Johnson, doesn't play all that a lot often, got his good goal against Wolves the other day, obviously. But they've got to be careful. They don't want to be in a position where they're looking behind there and they get caught by these other clubs, in a position where they don't want to be in, and the questions start getting asked again. And before you know it, it's going to be Conte all over again. With a great manager, with great potential, but just the resources just lacking. They haven't replaced Kane yet. It must be stressed. They haven't replaced him. As good as Madison's doing, as good as, Son can do, they are missing that talisman right in the middle is what they need. So if they don't address that quick and get their players back fit, they've got a problem on their hands. Big.
I don't know how much they miss Kane this season. I don't think that's been their biggest issue. I think the problem now is that you've lost so many key players, and the players behind them aren't good enough. I mean, the good news for them in midfield is that Pape Sarr and Bissouma have been a good complement for the lack of Bentancur. Forget about him, he's been missing for most of this time. And he's a really good player for them. Like, when he first got injured, I was like, this is going to be an issue for them. And, in the wide areas, Kulusevski's not getting a lot of goals, doesn't shoot as much as he probably should, but the way they're playing, opportunities are going to keep coming for him. So once he figures out his shooting boots, they're going to be in business. Brendan Johnson's still adapting to their way of playing, but again, goal guy again. And then Son has been doing what he's been looking like he's on the verge of doing for years, and it's kind of being that main guy goal scoring wise. So I don't think Kane's absence is a big miss. I think the massive miss is going to be at the back, Van der Ven being out and Maddison now being gone, a lack of creativity, because they've always struggled with having a creative player. When they had Eriksen, they took it for granted. When they had Modric, they took it for granted.
Big time.
Then they had Eriksen, took it for granted. Now they've got Maddison, he's gone. They're taking that. They're gonna realize how important it is to have multiple players that can do a similar job, because right now, I don't know where the next win's going to come from.
It depends on what they want, really, from it. As a club, what do they want?
Well, we know what their ambitions are, but they never live up to it. Perennial failure bottle job club. But they can dare to dream and continue to fail. And talking about another set of failures, Fraud United, another win. Or Jam United, as I might call them.
That's better.
A nice 1-0 win at home to Luton Town. Winning 1-0 at home to a team that's struggling for points this season doesn't really sound good, but, points are points and 3 points is all you need. And they got it. Craig, what's your thoughts on this performance from them?
They got the 3 points. That's it. Not good. not very good football to watch, but in the day, 3 points on the board. There's 6 points behind Arsenal now on the table. As United fans will say, we're only 6 points behind you now. We're going to come and get you. We'll see what happens.
They have more chance of getting Ronaldo back in January than catching us in the table. Let's just say that. But I guess for you, Matthew, does this signify anything? Or it's just like Craig said, another 3 points, take it, move on, see you in 2 weeks?
This signifies the one thing I've been saying for all these years. They're the only club to pull off something like this. No other club in history can jam their way to the point where they're 6 points behind the top 4, whatever it is, and, apparently they're still having a bad season, which they are. They're in disarray, they're in shambles, Rashford's not happy for something's really, really bad.
Correction, they're 5 points off the top 4, they're 6 points behind Arsenal and Liverpool.
And for all of our hard work in these games,
you're still behind them.
We're still behind them. Because they're the only team that can do that, jamming their way to these wins that they don't deserve. They played terribly. Luton held on for a real long time because I was listening to it on the radio and I was like, please, even if it's just a 0-0. And then just get their jammy goal and that's it. Wolves, Brentford, Luton. Did we do it against Fulham as well?
Yeah, Fulham.
Fulham as well. They're the only club that are able to do this and still be terrible.
I got to say this on Man United. They actually have, out of the last 5 games, they have actually got the best form in the league. Because in the last 5 games, they have won 4 and lost 1. And they're the only team in the league that have won 4 games out of the last 5.
Wow. Jam United.
You see what I mean?
I'll give it to them.
You see what I mean? They just find a way. They just find a way. And it's just so annoying. Because
it's the history, isn't it? It's the history.
The fans will just come. I mean, look, serious society. The whole thing with Bobby Charlton's funeral earlier today as well and stuff like that. They come together for that sort of thing. They're that kind of club where they will make their history count for something, and they bring it all back. So it almost feels like good. Almost feels like they were doing that for him because I don't think they've lost since he unfortunately sadly passed away.
They did.
No?
They lost against Copenhagen.
Not in the league.
Champions League. Yeah.
They're that kind of club where you talk about like the spirit of the club, where they're doing it for. It happened with Georgie Best. They won the spirit of him, and with Bobby Charlton and him, they won the spirit of him as well. With the funeral and celebrations today. But I don't know, man. I don't know. They are the only club that can do this. No other club in the league can get away with stuff like this. So I just don't know. It depends on who the next game is, but
we'll cover those a bit later. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Lindelof was the match winner. He needed that because it's not a player that's very highly regarded. There were some quotes coming out this week that Harry Maguire is saying that he feels vindicated in staying at Manchester United because he's been important and crucial in their upturn in form. I mean, look, a broken clock is right twice a day. It doesn't mean it's good and usable, is it? But I'm happy for him. I'm happy he feels that way. I'm happy that they're that they've managed to get back-to-back wins. And they the defeat they had prior to that was the Manchester derby when Man City gave them a beating. But it's going to be one of those things that we'll see from them. I guess the big question is now because Højlund came off injured. He's pulled out of international team duty, so that's going to be a big loss. Or what if it's a serious injury? It might just be one of those little minor ones. Eriksen as well pulled out of international duty for injury. Ten Hag wasn't at the funeral. Apparently he had somewhere else he had to be and he couldn't get out of it, which has been it's been interesting how that's been covered because Man City sent a delegation to the funeral, so they were represented. Man United's current boss wasn't. It's not really good, is it? It's not a good look. Obviously, whatever he had to do, if it's clearly super important and he couldn't change it, and that's understandable. But it doesn't change the fact that from a bragging rights perspective, you weren't there for a club legend's funeral. Not good. Not good. But let's hope that their season continues to be what it has been. Laughable. Or for Man United fans, it picks up. We'll see. And let's move over to Arsenal. Got that win we needed to get at home against Burnley. A nice 3-1 win. Some of us wanted 6 goals, but I guess the players are keeping that in the back pocket for now. Let's talk about the opener, Leandro Trossard. Again, proving that in the absence of Jesus and with Nketiah seemingly out of form, he is the best man to lead the line. What's your take on his performance in this game?
Class. Top class. And the way he scored his goal as well, bravery. He hit his ribs on the post. Nketiah wouldn't do that. Jesus wouldn't do that.
Nketiah might do that.
But he wouldn't score though. Alright, yeah. So I say his bravery.
Anyway,
his bravery for the goal, his all-round play. He got 2 assists as well. The 2 corners, one for Saliba, one for Zinchecho for the goal, for the assist. So all round he done well. Did well in the Champions League against Sevilla, scored the opening goal. So I feel like he needs to start more matches. He's a good player, very good player, quality player.
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird ones with Trossard this season because when he has started in some games, he's not looked as good. Especially when he started on the left ahead of Martinelli earlier in the season. Didn't look as effective. But we knew from last year, with Jesus out, he is the best one to suit our system because he most complements Martinelli and Saka. Unfortunately, with Nketiah, he doesn't work well with either of them. Martinelli doesn't really get anything when Nketiah's on the pitch. Like he's not going to score because the way how Nketiah plays, and it's very similar to Ramsey after he had his goal-scoring season. There's some players that they facilitate others and some players that facilitate themselves. And with Nketiah, sometimes, and I've watched it myself live here, and it annoys me, he'll play a pass to a player, but the way how he does it, it forces the player receiving the pass to try and set him up rather than set them up for a chance to score. It's subtle. Ramsey did it a lot in that season after he won his major goal scoring run. The season after he was doing it a lot, and that's why him and some of the players didn't get on famously. So it's an interesting thing. But for you, like, how important do you think it is that, especially with this game, 3 different goal scorers, Trossard getting on the board, Saka still putting up numbers even when he's having an off season. How important is it for Arsenal in games like this to just get these performances, not just get the result, but the performance that shows that the pieces are coming together for what the manager wants to achieve this year?
It's so vital, especially with your different approach. How you're going, your more methodical and measured approach this year. You could the old Arsenal from last year would have put 6 past on, no doubt. But like we said before, your approach is different, and it has to say. You're level on points with City, so for whatever reason, it is working. And, you're adding, every single time, you're adding more goal scorers from different positions on the pitch. Trossard, Zinchecho and Saliba, 3 different positions. So it's a threat where you're a threat no matter who's on the pitch scoring a goal. For all I know, David Raya might get a goal one day. You just never know. Maybe from like some mystery corner. It's crazy. We're a third, just around a third of the season done. Coming up to that hectic Christmas period, more or less, sometimes the league is won or lost, not just on the pitch, but on the transfer window. Obviously, got the whole Tony saga coming up with there as well. But it's good that you're keeping pace and you're running your race. You're not getting too distracted by what City are doing, which may have been one of your downfalls last year. Because of the fact that you were so ahead of them for a long of a time, you were still hyper focused on what they were doing and what you're doing. But with your approach this year seems much more about, let's focus on what we're doing. Never mind what they're doing. We got things we need to do. And as a result, you have to say, if anything, you'd feel better about, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd feel better about this approach to the title rather than last year's approach, because you're not taking things for granted. You're putting in those ugly performances when you have to against a team. Granted, Burnley form is terrible at the moment. You still got to put in those performances. They got to go back, but you replied with 2 excellent goals. So keep putting them. It's the best thing is really just keep putting them results in, because it looks like the house of Etihad is slowly starting to crumble. But also be mindful of other teams around you that may want to slip in if you just keep on in fighting. But look, good results. Great goal, particularly by Zinchenko. He's got to keep on marching on, man.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing for Arsenal. I believe it was after the Sevilla game. They spoke to Arteta about, they asked about the comparison between last season and this season. I think it was Ria Ferdinand asking the question about what's been the major differences between Arsenal this year to last year. And I think Arteta said that, this year, because they were like, it seems like Arsenal controlling games more. He said, the big difference is that we're not starting as fast as last season. Now, last season, within the first 10, 15 minutes, we usually had at least one goal, probably two. We used to blitz teams, and then we could kind of pace ourselves. And we're not getting those goals earlier in the game. I don't necessarily feel like our starts have been slow. We're just not clinical in the beginning of the match. How important do you think it will be, Craig, for that part of the equation to click into gear and for us to get early goals quicker in matches to really kind of kill them off and allow us to kind of keep controlling matches how we are and how we have done this season?
I think everything will eventually click into place. We'll just click automatically. One game we'll just go and play against a team. Like against Sheffield United, we scored 5 goals against Sheffield United. So like a game will be come into the game, started the kickoff, got the end, goal. Go off again, goal. City do it well. City the best at doing that. They can kill off a game in 20 minutes if they want to. City, maybe Liverpool can do that. Newcastle got the players to do that as well. Chelsea could do that as well, have the potential to do that as well. They can just kill the game off. There's some teams in the league that have got that potential that kill teams off. We need to find that killer punch again, that killer instinct, like go for kill straight away, bang, 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 goal, goal, goal. I think we've got the potential to do it as well. We can definitely do it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, whether we can bring that all together, because for me, that's going to be crucial to see what the team does and how well things go. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy. Obviously, Zinchecho scored an amazing goal. Great bit of technique. Do you think you could have pulled that one off, Craig, on the pitch?
I hurt my knee, maybe. Maybe.
I think that was good. I mean,
that was a good goal.
Not only that was a good goal, I think like when you think about key centre-backs coming up and scoring good goals, obviously we saw it with Chelsea as well against Man City, Thiago Silva getting a rare goal, but a very good goal that he should get more of.
That header, he's so good. He's so good at them as well.
And I feel like with William Saliba as well, it's a thing that I want to see more of as well this season, because I know last year he's got that wonder goal against Bournemouth, left foot, sweeps in the top corner. I want to see more goals from the guy. Love his celebrations, love his energy, so I want to see him get more goals.
You see the Thiago Silva goal, yeah? You see how the players blocked him, so that block.
Yeah.
See how someone blocked Haaland and then out Haaland's face and then bang, right in the ball.
Clinical, mate.
That's what you got.
That is Drogba-esque header.
Yeah. Champions League final against Bayern Munich.
Beautiful.
That's the way. And then I think we're just going to focus on a couple more games before we look at the fixtures coming up after the international break. Crystal Palace, Everton. We've been talking a lot about Everton this season as a team to watch. They got a 3-2 win away from home. Key goals from Mikalenko, Decore, who we've mentioned time and time again is going to be crucial for them this season. Idrissa Gueye. For Palace, Edouard and Eze got the goals for them, and they'll be hoping that with Elise coming back to fitness to be able to push on from that. But how important do you think it is now for Everton to keep picking up these 3 points? Because they're up to 14th in the table, and we're going to go into more of that a bit later, some of the ramifications of that. But like I said, their run, they're maintaining it.
Yeah.
1, lost, 1, drew, 1. And they got Man United next. So how important do you think it is for them to keep pushing on, and whilst we wait for the verdict of this financial fair play decision?
I feel like they need to continue winning, because right now they need to win as much games as they can, because if that fine comes in and they get dot points, they don't want to be bottom of the league. So they get enough points. So if they get like 20 or 30 points 25 points or 30 points before Christmas, at least if they get the 12 points, it won't leave them in too much damage. You know what I mean? It'll be less damage control. You know what I mean? They can kind of work their way up. But if they start going on a losing run, and their trajectory and they get the points deducted, they'll be down the bottom of the league. You don't want that, because there'll be struggle for them to get back up again. Confidence and the team and so they definitely need
with a group of players that shouldn't be in the relegation, that kind of situation in the first place.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see what they do. Obviously, they're getting their players back from fitness. They were able to pick practically their first choice back four. Midfield was still missing key players. At least they didn't start. It came on after 6-7 minutes. So, and Decore didn't play in this game, which is a bit of an interesting one. But yeah, there's work for them to do. But Everton, they're going to be happy with that. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to land on that one. And then last game to talk about before we get on to the predictions for the next set of games. Liverpool, nice 3-0 win against Brentford. That puts them comfortably in second place in the league on 27 points, level with Arsenal. Obviously, Man City lead us all on 28 points. But for you, Matt, Liverpool, they are slowly chugging away in the background, putting together a very impressive run for the title.
They are doing what, good teams do in a situation where an opportunity arises. They're running their race. They're absolutely running their race. And they've picked after a result in the Spurs game, which I think is the only game they've lost in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
I think they're the only one, they're the only team to, only other team bar you to win, only have one defeat. Every other result has gone their way. They've picked up some fantastic results. They're playing some good football. They're I'm not saying they're reaching that explosive level that they had before with likes of Mane and Firmino, but what they are doing is a more consistent and slightly more measured approach when they need to put in a result. Obviously, granted, the result against Luton was a slight blip in the progress train, but it wasn't a defeat. It was not a defeat. Had to show a lot of courage coming from a hard ground on a hard day, coming back and producing something to come back in game and get a point, which is the kind of thing you want if you're going to go and try and upset the 2-horse title race. They are doing everything right that they need to be at the moment. And you will know more of that when they play the likes of City, when they play the likes of Man United, and when they play the likes of you, eventually coming on in the year, just how much this approach is working for them so far. Obviously, with Darwin chipping in goals, he's definitely he's 100% having a better year this year. They've got the likes of Gakpo, what's it like? Szoboszlai as well.
Obviously Jota, and obviously,
they've got so much going forward, so much. They fix that in midfield, they're going to be an absolute problem.
They're just missing that holding midfielder.
Yeah.
If they were to pick it, I mean, weirdly enough, do you think Fabinho, if he had stayed, would he be the difference maker in this current Liverpool team? It's a tough one.
Maybe.
Possibly.
But Henderson's not there anymore.
Who needs that guy?
Maybe.
He still gets England call-ups, which is shocking.
He got called up for England?
Always does.
I don't need to look at the team because I know I'm going to disagree with it anyway. Always going to disagree with it. But,
Yeah, Liverpool looking sharp. Mo Salah's looking like that man, as he always is. I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. I don't see him dropping off at all. They're going to be up there, and he is going to rival Haaland for the Golden Boot by the end of the season. That is for sure. But let's look at the table first, and then we'll go into the games. But the table from the bottom up, Burnley, rooted to the bottom, 20th, 4 points. They got West Ham coming up next. What's your predictions for that match?
West Ham win.
West Ham win?
And win.
I'm going to say that's the start of the fight back. Burnley will get that. A 1 goal in it, either 1-0 or 2-1. Okay. Sheffield United in 19th with 5 points. Their next game is Bournemouth at home.
Bournemouth.
Draw.
Same. Luton Town, 18th on 6 points. They've got Crystal Palace next at home.
Palace.
Luton at home. I fancy Luton this one.
That could be their first win of the season. I'll give it to them. Or second. Yeah. And then above them, they've got Bournemouth, who are in 17th position. We mentioned Bournemouth already. They got Sheffield United next. Then it's Fulham in 16th place on 12 points. They have Wolves at home next.
Wolves. Fulham can't score goals. That's the issue. They're struggling to score goals this season.
Even with Willian Neves and all them, man.
They've conceded 20 goals this season so far at Fulham and scored 10.
Oof.
So I think Wolves are going to win that one.
I think the woe is going to continue and go Wolves.
I think Fulham might do a 1-0. Then we've got Nottingham Forest in 15th on 13 points. They have Brighton at home next.
Draw.
I'm going to say draw.
Brighton win for me. And then Everton versus Manchester United. Everton on 14 points in 14th place. That's quite nice. And they have Man United at home.
Everton's record at Man United at home is quite good. So I would say...
For me, based on the pattern of games they've had, they're either going to lose or draw.
I think a draw. 2-2 draw.
I'm going for a loss.
I'm going for a cheeky 1-0 win.
Everton.
For Everton.
Well, they're going to break the pattern. That would be good for
They were
them.
good a bit. I think the only other game they lost recently was Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah, the derby. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're on form in a minute. I don't think it's going to stop with United. I think cheeky 1-0 win for Everton.
And above them is Crystal Palace in 13th on 15 points. We've mentioned them already. And then Wolves in 12th on 15 points. We've mentioned them already too. And then Brentford in 11th on 16 points. And they have Arsenal at home.
I'm working that game as well.
Well, I'm going for an Arsenal win.
I think Arsenal win.
I think it'll be a close game. 2-1 maybe.
Arsenal win.
2-1, yeah. 3-1 for me.
Arsenal win, you say?
2-0.
2-0 Arsenal. And then in 10th, we have Chelsea on 16 points. And they have Newcastle away next.
Up for Chelsea. 2-1 to the Chelsea.
If Newcastle have their fit players back, yeah, I think Chelsea will win. If they have their fit players back, I think it'll be a draw.
You know, I'm actually going to back you guys in a big way. I'm going to say 4-1 Chelsea win.
Up the Chelsea.
Just
Newcastle
8 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
that'll be good for Chelsea. And then West Ham have Burnley, already mentioned them. They're in 9th position on 17 points. Brighton Hove are in 8th position on 19. Newcastle 7th on 20. Man United 6th on 21. Then in 5th, we've got Aston Villa on 25 points. And they've got Spurs away.
I fancy Aston Villa to win, you know. Because Spurs' defence is like, the way how
porous, yeah.
the way how Ali Watkins and that Diaby guys playing, I wouldn't want to play against them as
that counter-attacking goal they got from Fulham's corner last match. Oh my goodness.
Look at their bench. Leon Bailey's on their bench. Yuri Tillerman's on their bench. I could name a whole squad of their good players on their bench. They have got
ballers.
They got
Let me
not talk about, yeah.
You know, when you put it like that, I can see a narrow Villa win, like 1-0 or 2-1.
The interesting thing with it is that Villa beat them, they're in the top 4. And actually,
They can do it.
it would put them in the... Because if Tottenham are in a conversation for the title, Villa should be 2. Because
100%.
they're on 25, Tottenham are on 26 points in 4th.
Yeah.
But if they beat them, they'll be on 28th. Obviously, the other teams above them, you expect to more or less get 3 points. Although Man City play Liverpool, we'll talk about it in a bit. But there's a possibility that they could end that weekend as high as 3rd.
Aston Villa. Wow.
I think they
At
can
the
do it.
very
I think they can do it. I
at the
think they
very
can
minimum,
definitely do
they'll
it.
be 4th if they win. So yeah,
I
that's
feel Aston Villa are a very hard team to beat this season. And the only team they got battered by was Newcastle. That was the start of the season.
Yeah, but
They're fixed up.
They're
And
fixed
then
up.
Nottingham Forest beat them last time around. So
Yeah, they're fixed up.
Emery's got them where I think he's in his happier place.
He's that type of manager. He can go to a small team. Not saying Aston Villa's a small club, because they are a big club, but he can go to a lesser from the top 4 and go to
and then cause them problems.
and cause the
Villarreal.
He did it at Villarreal, Valencia. He did it at done it at clubs before.
Yeah. So then obviously we've mentioned Tottenham there. They're in 4th on 26 points. Arsenal are in 3rd on 27. We mentioned their game against Brentford. And then the top of the table clash, Liverpool versus Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. It's the first game back off the international break. It's on a Saturday, the early game on Saturday.
12:30 kickoff.
12:30 kickoff. How are we seeing that one go? Because that's a massive game.
Big game.
If Man City defended how they defended yesterday, I could say Liverpool winning. But if Liverpool defend and don't defend well, I can see Man City winning. So it's a flip of the coin.
It's Man City's defence versus Liverpool in the field as a weak point.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be.
I'll be honest with you. I want a 3-3 draw. That's what I want. I just want a draw.
A draw would do
that works for everyone else.
A draw would do the Premier League well, because then Man City would have dropped more points. Yeah.
I think they're going to drop points again, but I don't think they're going to lose. I think it's going to be a draw as well.
And I think a lot of people haven't really noticed this year, but you know that Edison made a big mistake yesterday for one of the Chelsea goals. I don't know if you remember.
Jackson's goal, yeah.
Yeah. The way how he just palmed the ball went. He's making a lot of mistakes recently, so
Shaky.
I feel like you should try and test him early and see what he's about.
He's always made mistakes. The thing with Edison is that he gets bored. And when he gets bored, he kind of starts getting a bit complacent and trying stuff he shouldn't try. Like he'll try passing out little chip passes. And if you press him early enough, you unsettle him. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, you know, Liverpool fans, I know Mark would be saying it, you know, they'll be hoping for a win. I just think it's going to be, I'm hoping for a draw. It'll be a very close game. If Liverpool do pull off a win, then I would say that's probably because they've just played at a much higher level than Man City, rather than Man City play poorly. I think Liverpool could do it, but it'll be them having to raise the game to their best. If Man City win, it'll be because Liverpool in midfield, their weaknesses are exposed, as opposed to Man City rising the game that much more. But that's how we see it going. And you know, we're gonna have a international break. Yay! We'll be back again with the next one coming up soon. I hope you all have a great rest of the day. See you later.
Peace.